Hi, everybody. Joe Cioffi here. Weather in 5 days and 5 minutes, and what's turned out to be a really good-looking Tuesday. We've got sunshine. It's very warm to hot with temperatures in the upper 80s to around or just over 90, but the dew points are fairly reasonable. They're mostly in the upper 50s to around 60. Perfection from that standpoint? No, but certainly a hell of a lot better than when dew points are sitting up in the 70s like we had over the weekend and led up to the big rains that we saw on Sunday. The satellite loop with lightning strikes not really showing very much as of 4 p.m. Eastern Time. We have a weak weather system that's moving across the eastern lakes and southeastern Canada, producing a few thunderstorms north of Lake Erie and Lake Ontario. It's nice and sunny, pretty much from Maine all the way down to North Florida with no thunderstorm activity at all. You scattered cells in north central Florida where there's a frontal boundary there, and also some scattered cells that are moving into Louisiana and Mississippi at the moment, and a little bit of action going on up into the northern plains. But I mean, just really a spectacular summer day here in the eastern part of the U.S. with nothing more than just a few passing clouds. And we're going to have a repeat performance of this on Wednesday when highs will probably reach upper 80s and low 90s. But those dew points are still going to hold close to the 60-degree mark, which in my view is reasonably comfortable. It's not terrible. If we start seeing dew points climbing up into the mid and upper 60s, then we can certainly start complaining. And I think that's going to happen as we move through the rest of the week. Radars are very quiet in the east, and they're going to remain so. You see those thunderstorms on the Canada side of Lake Erie and Lake Ontario, a few scattered cells across north central Florida, nothing to write home about there. Some heavier cells in parts of Mississippi and in southern Alabama. We're seeing some showers and a couple of thunderstorms that are starting to bubble up coming out of the northern plains, and also in the lower lakes around the Chicago area, where there's a one severe thunderstorm warning as of 4 p.m. Eastern Time, and a scattering of severe thunderstorm warnings up in southeastern Michigan. The Storm Prediction Center has this sort of arcing east-west band of marginal to slight risk from southeastern Michigan across the lower lakes, back through Iowa, and then on up from Nebraska northwestward into Montana, and that's where we see there's a bit of tornado risk there, 2%. Also, marginal risk indicated along the Gulf Coast, back through Louisiana and into northeast Texas. For tomorrow, we see that east-west band starts up in Maine, moves narrowly through central New York, northern Pennsylvania. Marginal means isolated severe thunderstorms. A bit more in the way of clustered severe weather possible in the slight risk zone from eastern Kansas, southern Iowa, Illinois, western Indiana, and extending down to the Missouri-Arkansas state line with marginal risk surrounding that. And in that slight risk zone, we're seeing a 2% tornado risk. Most of the issues will be with regard to wind, where there's an actual 15% hatched area tomorrow in Missouri and eastern Kansas and parts of Illinois east of St. Louis, where there's a 15% chance that we could see thunderstorms producing wind gusts of 65 knots or higher. As far as rainfall is concerned, now after Wednesday, we're going to start running into let's call them opportunities for showers and thunderstorms as weather systems move along in the flow. And over the next 7 days, which takes us through next Tuesday evening, the purple is an inch and a half. And that's in northeastern Pennsylvania, northern New Jersey, southern New England, and points northward. And the reds are 2 to 2.5 inches. And as we know, in the summertime with these situations, particularly because we're dealing with thunderstorms, local amounts could wind up being double that. And that's we certainly saw that in that event on Sunday. Otherwise, much of the area east of the Rockies, not too bad. You know, 3/4 of an half an inch to maybe an inch and a half in a few places. You've got a max area in southern Missouri, a small max area in northern Louisiana and southern Arkansas, and the west, of course, as we know, very, very quiet. So it's going to be a series of weather fronts that are going to come through, and each one of them in that flow from Canada that just continues to dominate will produce the risk for some thunderstorms. No problems, as we said, for obviously nothing tonight and nothing for tomorrow. Maybe a few scattered cells in that zone that SPC pointed out from Maine westward into northern Pennsylvania and back over toward the lower lakes. But other than that, it'll be a day of sunshine and temperatures upper 80s to low 90s, eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England. Then as we move into Thursday, this is when we're going to start to see the dew points come up into the mid and upper 60s. And the first of several disturbances will approach, and that could trigger off some scattered thunderstorms Thursday afternoon and evening. Then they die out a bit during the overnight, but they still hold on to some degree. And there could be some scattered thunderstorms around Thursday night into Friday morning. The front getting hung up right along the coast, which means we could see more thunderstorms possibly bubble up during the day on Friday into Friday night. Saturday, that front makes no progress. It basically falls apart on up and down the East Coast, and then we got another front that's going to push to the east. So the chance for thunderstorms there. It's not an all-day rain, mind you, so there will be dry stretches, but it's going to be very warm and very humid. And we see the same showing up again for Sunday, especially Sunday afternoon and evening again, where we could see perhaps more numerous showers and thunderstorms with a weather front that's going to approach and stall out right along the East Coast before it begins to pull away next Mondays. It's kind of a wash, rinse, repeat pattern with what we just had, but hopefully we're not going to get into anything extreme as long as we don't have something that's diving down to the southeast and making a low that runs up the front on the east side of the Appalachians. We should be okay from the standpoint of getting anything extreme, but given that the ground is as saturated as it is, once we start getting into these occasional thunderstorm threats, there is going to be the possibility that some places we'll see some locally heavy rains, and so there's some, let's call it local risk for some flash flooding. The Weather Prediction Center beginning on Thursday, as you'll see, has a marginal risk for flash flooding from western Maine down into the central Appalachians and then west across the lower Ohio Valley through the Mississippi, middle Mississippi and Missouri River Basin, and then northwest from there into South Dakota. Note the slight risk area in upstate New York and Vermont and New Hampshire for the chance for excessive rain. A risk there of 15 to as much as 40%. Slight risk is 5 to 15, and another max area in southern Missouri. So a bit of a break here before the busy weather pattern gets underway, and we're going to talk about that and the long range tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show at 7:35 p.m. Eastern Time.